Have you ever noticed how two simple words, "I am," might be the most powerful phrase you'll ever speak? Yet most of us have been misusing this divine declaration our entire lives, completely unaware of the transformation waiting just beneath the surface of our consciousness. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up, look in the mirror, and immediately your mind fills with limiting thoughts. I am tired. I am stressed. I am not enough. What if I told you that this habitual way of identifying with your temporary human conditions is precisely what keeps you trapped in cycles of limitation, struggle, and lack? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. What you're about to discover might surprise you, even shock you, because it contradicts everything we've been conditioned to believe about ourselves and our identity. When spiritual master Joel Goldsmith spoke of "I am," he wasn't referring to your personality, your job title, your bank account, or any of the temporary conditions of your human experience. He was pointing to something far more profound, the divine consciousness that you actually are. Stay with me until the end of this video, because understanding this truth doesn't just change your thinking. It completely transforms your entire experience of being alive. Imagine what would happen if you suddenly realized that the I that says "I am" isn't your limited human self at all, but the very presence of infinite intelligence speaking through you, the same consciousness that creates galaxies, that orchestrates the perfect harmony of nature, that has never known limitation or lack. When you truly grasp this, something remarkable begins to shift inside you. The problems that once seemed so overwhelming begin to dissolve, not because you've found clever solutions, but because you've discovered they were merely shadows cast by a false identification. You start to recognize that your true nature has never been sick, never lacked anything, never been afraid. These experiences happen only to the false sense of identity that believes itself separate from wholeness. Think about it. How many times have you said, "I am," followed by something limiting, painful, or constraining? Each time, you were innocently misidentifying with temporary conditions rather than the eternal presence that you truly are. This isn't merely positive thinking or affirmations. It's a fundamental recognition of what has always been true, but forgotten, beneath layers of conditioning. The most profound shift occurs when you begin to feel this truth awakening within you, not as an intellectual concept, but as a living reality. Your awareness begins to open to dimensions of your being that have always been present but overlooked. You start to sense the vast intelligence that expresses itself through your individual life. If you're resonating with these deeper truths about the "I am" presence, make sure to hit the subscribe button to join our community of spiritual explorers. Each new video takes us one step deeper into awakening our true divine nature. You begin to sense a remarkable hidden truth emerging. The spiritual journey itself starts to transform. Think about it. So many of us have spent years, sometimes decades, searching for enlightenment, awakening, or deeper spiritual connection. We've meditated, attended workshops, read countless books, followed various teachers, all with the underlying belief that what we're seeking is somewhere out there, waiting to be found or achieved through the right practice or technique. But the profound revelation that comes when you truly understand the "I am" presence is that the entire search was based on a fundamental misunderstanding. The transformation isn't about finding something new, it's about recognizing what has always been true. You're not a human being having occasional spiritual experiences. You're spiritual consciousness itself having a temporary human experience. This single shift in perspective creates a revolution in your entire mindset. The impact of this realization brings an unexpected peace because the restless seeking finally stops. The journey you thought would take you somewhere else actually brings you home to yourself. There's nowhere to go, nothing to become, nothing to achieve. The completeness you've been seeking has been what you are all along, simply waiting for recognition beneath the noise of your human thinking. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what happens to your experience of healing. Most approaches to healing assume there's something wrong that needs to be fixed, a problem to be solved, a condition to be overcome. But from the standpoint of I am consciousness, true healing doesn't work that way at all. When you recognize yourself as divine consciousness, healing happens naturally, without effort or struggle. Your problems don't get solved in the traditional sense. They dissolve because they were never real in spiritual truth. They were just shadows cast by false identification with temporary appearances. This isn't positive thinking or mere affirmations. It's recognizing what you have always been beneath the appearance of limitation. Consider the revelations that occur when this understanding becomes your lived experience. A woman who had struggled with chronic illness for years stopped trying to heal what she thought was wrong with her and instead rested in the recognition of her true nature as divine consciousness. Within weeks, her symptoms began to fade, not because she found the right treatment, but because she stopped energizing the belief in herself as a separate, limited entity that could be sick. The decisions we make from this awareness create an entirely different trajectory for our lives. Instead of constantly reacting to appearances and trying to manipulate external conditions, we begin living from the inside out. Our actions flow from wholeness rather than from the desperate need to fill some perceived lack. What revelations have you experienced when you've momentarily glimpsed your true nature beyond your human identity? Write in the comments, "I remember when I felt this," truth, and share that moment of recognition that went beyond your everyday thinking. This understanding creates a profound liberation in your relationship with the external world. Think about how much of our energy is typically spent seeking validation, approval, and fulfillment from outside ourselves. We're constantly looking to circumstances, people, achievements, or possessions to give us what we think we need. But this pattern creates an endless cycle of dependency and disappointment. The breakthrough moment comes when you realize that this approach has always been backward. When you genuinely understand I am consciousness, you stop looking outward for completion because you recognize the completeness that you already are. This isn't a mindset shift in the traditional sense. It's a complete reversal of the direction in which you seek security and fulfillment. Behind the scenes of this transformation is a remarkable recalibration of your entire relationship with life. You cease trying to manipulate people, circumstances, or conditions to make yourself feel better. The constant need to control external reality, which creates so much stress and anxiety in our lives, naturally diminishes. Instead, you discover the unshakable foundation of security that exists within you as your true divine nature. This revelation doesn't make you passive or indifferent to improving conditions. Rather, it allows you to engage with life from a completely different starting point. You're no longer driven by the desperate need to acquire something you feel you lack. Your decisions and actions flow from an entirely different source. The impact of this understanding transforms not just how you feel, but how you act in every area of your life. Your behavior shifts naturally and effortlessly because it emerges from a different consciousness. You give instead of primarily seeking to get. You love instead of primarily seeking to be loved. You serve instead of primarily seeking to be served. Consider how this might transform your closest relationships. When you're no longer desperately trying to extract love, approval, or security from others, you become capable of truly loving them as they are. You're free to give without the hidden agenda of getting something in return. This genuine love creates a completely different quality of connection that others can feel, even if they can't name what's different about your presence. The journey of embodying this truth happens naturally when you know yourself as the source of what you seek. You begin acting from the abundance of what you are, rather than the poverty of what you think you lack. And this isn't something you need to force or fabricate. It's the natural expression of your awakening understanding. A businessman shared how this shift completely transformed his approach to work and success. For years, he had been driven by an underlying fear of not having enough, not achieving enough, not being enough. Every decision was colored by this subtle sense of lack. When he began to recognize his true nature as divine consciousness, his actions naturally began to flow from wholeness rather than need. His creativity expanded, his relationships improved, and ironically, his business flourished more than ever before. If you've experienced even a glimpse of this shift from seeking externally to resting in your inner completeness, write in the comments, "I'm finding the source within," and share how this awareness has begun changing your experience. The revelations continue to unfold as this awareness begins to influence your everyday decision-making process. Consider how most of our decisions emerge from either subtle or obvious fear. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not having enough. This fear-based decision-making creates a particular quality of experience that often feels heavy, contracted, and stressful. But when you begin each day by resting in the pure awareness of I am, without adding qualifiers or conditions to it, something extraordinary happens to your decision-making framework. You naturally begin operating from a mindset of peace instead of fear, from abundance instead of lack. This isn't a technique you need to practice or perfect. It emerges organically from your recognition of who you really are. Behind the scenes, what's actually happening is that your decisions are now flowing from a completely different source. Instead of reacting to external circumstances from a place of insecurity, you're responding from the unshakable foundation of your true identity. Your work transforms from being primarily a source of stress and struggle to becoming an expression of joy and service. You bring security to your endeavors rather than seeking security from them. A financial advisor described how this awareness completely transformed his professional practice. For years, he had approached his work from subtle anxiety about performance, competition, and results. When he began consistently resting in I am consciousness each morning, his entire approach shifted. He found himself making recommendations based on what truly served his clients rather than what would generate the highest commissions. Ironically, this integrity-based approach led to even greater success as clients sensed his genuine concern for their well-being. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this understanding transforms not just how you see yourself, but how you see everyone around you. One of the most beautiful journeys that unfolds is the natural recognition of the same divine identity in others that you've discovered in yourself. You begin seeing beyond people's temporary challenges, behaviors, and conditioning patterns to their unlimited potential. This shift in perception has transformative power because most people are starving to be truly seen. They long for someone to recognize who they really are beneath their struggles, mistakes, and human limitations. When you hold this awareness of their true nature, it creates a field of possibility around them. You're no longer primarily relating to their problems or personality patterns. You're connecting with the divine consciousness that they are, even if they haven't yet recognized it themselves. A teacher shared how this understanding completely revolutionized her classroom. Instead of seeing struggling students as problems to be fixed, she began recognizing the divine potential in each child, temporarily confused about their true capabilities. The impact was profound as students began responding to being seen for who they truly were, rather than being defined by their challenges or limitations. If you've ever experienced being truly seen by someone who recognized your divine potential beneath your human struggles, drop a comment saying, "Someone saw the real me," and share how that experience changed things for you. Another fascinating transformation occurs in your creative expression. Many of us struggle with creative blocks, self-doubt, or the pressure to produce work that will be recognized and validated by others. This struggle stems from trying to create from our limited personal sense of self, our ego, rather than from the infinite source of all creativity. When you truly understand I am, your entire relationship with creativity undergoes a remarkable shift. You begin to recognize that creativity isn't something you need to generate or force from your human mind. Rather, it's the natural expression of the divine consciousness that you are. The journey becomes less about trying to be creative and more about allowing that infinite creativity to express itself through your unique individual form. An artist described this transformation as getting out of my own way. For years, she had struggled with creative blocks and performance anxiety. When she began practicing the awareness of I am before beginning her work, she noticed that inspiration flowed more naturally. Her artwork became more authentic and powerful because it wasn't filtered through personal agendas or the desperate need for recognition and validation. Ready to continue this journey of spiritual awakening? Click subscribe now and join thousands of others who are discovering the power of the I am consciousness in their daily lives. Don't miss a single insight that could transform your understanding. The revelation here is that all true creativity comes from the same source, divine consciousness expressing itself through individual awareness. Whether you're an artist, writer, musician, entrepreneur, or simply someone seeking to live more creatively, resting in your true identity allows that infinite intelligence to express its unlimited creativity through your unique gifts and talents. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring another profound shift that occurs when you understand I am, what Joel Goldsmith called confident expectancy. This represents a complete transformation in how you meet life's challenges and uncertainties. Instead of anxiety about outcomes or desperate attempts to control the future, you begin to live with an unshakable trust in the divine intelligence that is expressing as your life. This mindset isn't based on blind optimism or positive thinking techniques. It emerges naturally from the direct experience of your true spiritual identity. You recognize that the same intelligence that coordinates billions of functions in your body without your conscious input, that maintains the perfect harmony of the cosmos, is fully capable of handling any situation that arises in your experience. Behind the scenes, what's happening is that you're no longer relying solely on your limited human perspective to navigate life's complexities. You're allowing a greater wisdom to guide your journey. You expect good, not because you're ignoring challenges or difficulties, but because you know yourself as the source of all good. This confident expectancy transforms how you meet apparent problems. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, you become a conscious participant in the divine creativity that is always seeking to express greater harmony, beauty, and love through every situation, even those that initially appeared difficult or challenging. A small business owner shared how this awareness carried him through a period of serious financial threat. Instead of panicking or making fear-based decisions, he maintained a quiet confidence that divine intelligence was working through the situation. This allowed him to see creative solutions and opportunities that would have remained invisible through the lens of fear and anxiety. If you've experienced moments when this kind of confident trust carried you through uncertainty, share in the comments, "I've felt this divine guidance," and tell us about that experience of being supported by something greater than your personal will or effort. One of the most liberating revelations that emerges from understanding I am is the freedom from the exhausting burden of control. Think about how much mental and emotional energy we typically expend trying to figure everything out, plan for every contingency, and control outcomes through force of will. This approach not only creates tremendous stress, it's also built on the illusion that our personal mind is the highest intelligence available to us. The breakthrough comes when you discover that what appears to be your individual life is actually divine consciousness, living itself through your unique expression. This doesn't mean you become passive or fatalistic. Rather, it means you recognize that there's a wisdom far greater than your human thinking that's already orchestrating your life journey with perfect intelligence. Behind the scenes of this transformation is a profound shift in your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of seeing the unknown as threatening, you begin to welcome it as the space where infinite intelligence reveals new possibilities beyond your current understanding. You no longer feel the need to control every aspect of your life through your limited personal will. You can rest in knowing that divine wisdom is expressing as your life experience, guiding you perfectly in each moment. A healthcare professional shared how this understanding completely transformed her approach to her work and life. For years, she had shouldered the immense responsibility of trying to control outcomes for her patients through sheer determination and expertise. The burden had created chronic stress and eventual burnout. When she began recognizing that divine consciousness was working through her rather than her working by herself, everything shifted. Her intuition sharpened, her diagnostic skills improved, and she found herself guided to exactly the right approach for each patient without the exhausting mental strain she'd previously experienced. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how understanding I am transforms your capacity for genuine compassion. Contrary to what some might assume, this spiritual awareness doesn't isolate you from the world or make you indifferent to human suffering. Instead, it creates the foundation for a deeper, more effective form of compassion that doesn't burn you out or leave you feeling depleted. The revelation here is that when you understand your true nature as divine consciousness, you're no longer trying to save or fix people from a sense of personal responsibility or guilt. You serve from the overflow of love that you are, without the heavy attachment to specific outcomes or the draining sense that it all depends on your personal effort. This mindset shift creates a completely different quality of service. You become capable of holding space for others in their pain without being overwhelmed by it, because you recognize that their true spiritual identity is untouched by their current circumstances. You can offer practical help when appropriate without the desperate need to control the results. A social worker described how this awareness completely transformed her effectiveness in working with challenging cases. Instead of being drained by compassion fatigue, she found herself energized by recognition of the divine potential in each client, regardless of their current struggles. Her presence itself became healing because she wasn't approaching them from need or pity, but from the overflow of wholeness. If you've experienced moments when true compassion flowed through you without effort or depletion, comment with, "I've felt compassion flow through me," and share what that experience revealed to you about your deeper nature. One of the most beautiful transformations that emerges from understanding I am is that you naturally become a healing presence wherever you go. This isn't about developing special healing techniques or abilities. It's about the natural impact of being established in your own truth. Think about people you've encountered who emanate a sense of peace and safety just by being themselves. That's the quality of presence we're exploring here. Behind the scenes of this phenomenon is a profound shift in how you relate to others. when you're no longer desperately trying to change people or fix situations from a sense of personal responsibility, you create a space where genuine healing can occur. People feel safe around you because they sense, often unconsciously, that you're not trying to make them different or better. You're simply being the love and peace that you are, which naturally uplifts everyone in your vicinity. The revelation here is that the most powerful service often comes through being rather than doing. Joel taught that when you're so established in your own truth that you become a healing presence, you contribute something invaluable to every environment you enter. People feel accepted rather than judged, appreciated rather than evaluated, and in that atmosphere of unconditional acceptance, genuine transformation becomes possible. A counselor shared how this understanding completely revolutionized her practice. Instead of approaching each client with a strategic plan to help them change, she began simply holding space with the recognition of their divine wholeness beneath their temporary struggles. Clients reported feeling truly seen, perhaps for the first time, and this recognition itself became the catalyst for profound healing and change. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what Joel Goldsmith called spiritual maturity and freedom. This represents perhaps the most significant milestone in the journey of understanding I am. When you stop seeking to become spiritual and start living from the spirituality that you are, life undergoes a remarkable transformation. It's no longer a struggle to achieve something or prove your worth. It becomes an authentic expression of joy and service flowing naturally from your true nature. The insight at the core of this journey is that spiritual freedom doesn't come from acquiring something you don't have. It emerges from recognizing what you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and false identification. You're free to be authentically yourself without apology or explanation, growing and learning from wholeness rather than from need. This mindset shift creates an entirely different quality of living. You're no longer driven by the desperate need to achieve spiritual status or attainment. You've discovered that what you've been seeking through endless practices and pursuits has actually been the truth of your being all along. This doesn't mean you stop growing or learning. It means you do so from an entirely different foundation, from the abundance of what you are, rather than the poverty of what you think you lack. A spiritual seeker described this transformation as the end of the journey and the beginning of life. After decades of practices aimed at becoming enlightened or spiritually advanced, she finally recognized that what she had been seeking had always been present as her true nature. This realization brought a profound peace and authenticity to her life that all her previous spiritual achievements had failed to deliver. If you've experienced moments of this spiritual freedom, when you've temporarily stopped striving to become something and simply rested in the truth of your being, share in the comments, "I've tasted this freedom," and describe how it felt different from your ordinary seeking state. Something remarkable happens when your understanding of I am deepens. Your individual awakening becomes a gift to humanity's collective consciousness. This isn't just about personal transformation anymore. It's about your contribution to the evolution of consciousness itself. Every person who recognizes their true spiritual identity creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond their individual experience. The insight here reveals a hidden truth about spiritual awakening. It's not an isolated journey. Each of us is connected to the collective field of human consciousness. When you awaken to your true nature as divine consciousness, you're not just transforming your own life. You're actually changing the frequency of that collective field, making awakening more accessible for others around you. This perspective completely shifts the impact of your spiritual journey. It's no longer just about your personal enlightenment or evolution. Your recognition of truth becomes a service to all of humanity. Even without saying a word, your consciousness of truth becomes contagious, spreading to everyone whose life you touch. This is why Joel Goldsmith emphasized that one person fully awake to their true identity can uplift an entire community. A meditation teacher described witnessing this phenomenon in retreat settings, when even one person in the group had a profound recognition of their true nature. The entire atmosphere in the room would shift. Others would spontaneously experience deeper states of awareness, often without knowing why. This demonstrates the tangible impact your consciousness has on the world around you. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring perhaps the most essential aspect of understanding I am, that this transformation is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of deepening into your truth. Many spiritual seekers imagine enlightenment as a final destination, a permanent state they'll reach after sufficient effort or practice. But Joel Goldsmith emphasized that the journey of awakening unfolds moment by moment throughout our entire lifetime. The revelation here completely transforms your approach to spiritual practice. Every moment becomes a fresh opportunity to remember who you really are and to live from that remembering. This isn't about attaining some future state of consciousness, but about continually returning to the truth that's already present within you. It's about bringing that awareness into each new circumstance, challenge, or relationship you encounter. This ongoing practice represents the most practical spiritual approach possible, resting in the recognition that you are not separate from the source of all healing, all supply, all love, and all peace. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's about bringing this awareness into your everyday experience, moment by moment. A spiritual practitioner described this ongoing journey as continually coming home to myself. She noticed that rather than reaching some permanent state of enlightenment, her experience was one of repeatedly recognizing and then temporarily forgetting her true nature, with each remembering becoming deeper and more stable than the last. The path itself became less about arriving somewhere and more about the beauty of repeatedly awakening to what's always been true. If you've noticed this rhythm of remembering and forgetting in your own journey of awakening, share in the comments, "I'm dancing between remembering and forgetting," and tell us what helps you return to the recognition of your true nature when you've temporarily lost sight of it. As we come to the close of our exploration, I want to acknowledge something important. If these words have resonated deeply with you, it's not by accident. There's a recognition that happens when truth meets truth, when the divine consciousness that I am speaks to the divine consciousness that you are. That recognition is beyond intellectual understanding. It's a felt sense of coming home to yourself. I'd love to continue this journey of awakening with you. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel. Each video is created with the intention of awakening more of us to the profound truth of who we really are, beyond our human stories and limitations. Your presence in this community adds to the collective field of awakening that we're creating together. If this message has touched something deep within you, leave a comment saying, "I recognize the truth within me," and share any insight or question that emerged for you while watching. Your sharing becomes a gift to others who might be experiencing similar recognitions or challenges along their journey. And if you found value in this exploration, a simple like helps others discover this message who might be ready for exactly this reminder of their true nature. Every engagement creates a ripple that extends far beyond what we can see. Right over here, you'll find another video that explores how to maintain this awareness of I am, even during challenging times when the world seems to pull you back into limited identification. Click there when you're ready to deepen this understanding even further. Until we meet again, remember, the divine consciousness that you truly are has never been touched by human limitation. Rest in that truth, and watch as your entire experience of life transforms.